Welcome back to Hanna, White and Friends, the podcast about living abroad. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks to everyone who has been on the show already, who makes it possible to have these meaningful conversations. Also feel free to share it with your friends and family and make it even a better thing. Feel free to follow me on Instagram under Hanna, White and Friends, or find myself on Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio and many more directories. Hi everyone, please welcome with me Marie Weiss. Marie is currently traveling around the world for 8 months and is collecting new memories, is broadening her mindset and is enjoying her life. We have been at the same high school together and have been in the same year as well. We both are from a very small town in the north of Germany, and now she's here in New Zealand and says hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming and for taking the time to actually talk to me.
Yes. I'm really excited about doing a podcast the first time.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here, especially because it's like a special guest edition. It was very unplanned, and especially you have not moved to a different country yet. You are still traveling around. So I was hoping to kind of capture the essence of the traveler mindset rather than the mindset of someone who has already moved their country.
Yeah.
So let's dive in like we do with everyone else. Mm-hmm. What is the reason that you have decided to leave your routine life behind for 8 months and to travel the world?
Wow. I'm not really sure if there's one reason why I did it.
Yeah.
I just love to travel, and then there was COVID and we were not really able to travel.
Yeah.
I mean, we were able to travel in Germany or maybe in Europe the second year. Yeah. But I always had a dream to come to Australia, to travel Australia and to see the outback and the Great Barrier Reef. And
wow.
I knew that, I need more than 3 weeks or 4 weeks of vacation.
Yeah.
And then I was not really thinking about the thing, the 8 months. But I just asked my boss if it's possible to go on a longer vacation.
Yeah.
And actually she said yes. And she was really supportive. And we we made a new contract so I could just collect a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And I worked full-time, but she didn't pay me full-time, and now I'm still getting paid a little bit of the money she saved for me.
Yeah.
And so she knows that I will come back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know I will have a job when I go back.
Wow. So just for me to understand correctly, you have worked full time, but she paid you a little less so that she can now pay you while you're on your vacation.
Yes.
And is that kind of a agreement around the sabbatical? That's how we call it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like in German it's Sabbatjahr.
Yes.
Yeah. So was there any agreement before that, or is there any policy in your workplace which says, okay, you can have up to a year or...
No. I work in social work, so there's not really a policy.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you just ask, they might make a deal for you personally.
Yeah.
But there's nothing for everybody.
Yeah. So maybe even a certain exception depending on if you have been there for a long time or if you have been a really good worker and they know they can rely on you. Then they might give it rather than to someone who hasn't been there for too long. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that she's still paying you a little bit. It's like very, very cool. Yeah, it's the first time that I hear about it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then because there's a lot of work in my work. So I was working a lot before I started the travel.
Yeah.
And then I knew because I was there for 5 years that I somehow needed a break.
Yeah.
And then it was the perfect moment.
And since we have talked a little bit, for everyone who doesn't know, Marie is just here by chance. Like, it wasn't a plan that she's visiting me. And especially at school, we knew that we exist, but we never really had the same group of friends. And when we actually found out that we will be at the same place, we got really excited. So I was showing her around today, and we went to Raglan and had a nice day on the beach. So I'm super grateful to see someone from home.
Yeah, and it's so cool to be so far away.
Yeah.
And to meet somebody from school.
Yeah, exactly. Someone you know.
Who knows the same people from before.
Yeah, we actually really were like talking a lot about the old days of like when we were 14, 15 at school. And also we talked about that you have been already overseas doing like a year or some months in America. And also you did something really interesting in Turkey.
Yes.
And do you mind telling us a little bit about what your occupation is and what you have done in Turkey?
I studied psychology.
Yeah.
And while I was studying, I knew I want to do an internship abroad. And my English was not really good. And as a psychologist, you have to talk a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to listen a lot. So you really need to know the language. And then I was checking in the internet where I can go. And then I applied for a center for dolphin therapy in Turkey.
Yeah.
And there were
so interesting.
Yeah, there were a lot of German families and German therapists.
Yeah.
And it was all kind of international English and German.
Yeah.
And then I was lucky that I got a place there, so I could work for 3 months. And I really liked the work to see what actually helps the children. There were a lot of children with disabilities and autism and really different things.
Yeah.
And they all came there, and somehow it helped everybody to improve their skills.
It's so nice, especially we have talked about it before, and I found it so fascinating how the dolphins are hopefully treated well. Especially you mentioned that these are rescued dolphins which are not able to survive in the ocean by themselves anymore, but that they are in the ocean and just kind of separated with a net so that they can still interact with the ocean life and the fish which can go through the net.
Yeah.
So that's really an important part, to hear that people are actually thinking about not just the human benefit, but also how they can take care of the animals. So
yeah, I know there are a lot of dolphin centers around the world, and in some places they just live in a pool.
Yeah.
And it's not really in their normal environment where they
like
might
the
live.
natural habitat. Yeah.
So I was happy that they have a nice environment where they live.
Yeah. And since you are now kind of at the end of your 8 months of traveling, where have you been? Where did you start when you started your sabbatical? And where did you make your way through until now coming to New Zealand?
Well, I started in India and I started with an Ayurvedic treatment.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I heard about it first. It just came to my mind some months before I started the sabbatical, because I was really working a lot and then I was so tired, so I was not really motivated to plan anything. Yeah. And then I read something or I heard something about Ayurvedic treatment.
Advertisement.
Yeah, probably. And then I actually wanted to go to Sri Lanka. Yeah. And I already booked everything. But then they had really, a bad political situation there.
Yeah, I know about it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was not feeling safe to go there and to start my sabbatical there.
Yeah.
And then I booked the thing with an agency, and they told me to just go to India. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I feel really safe to go to India alone.
Yeah.
But then I just made it.
Did it anyways?
And it was a really nice experience.
Yeah.
To see the culture and all the different religious things.
Yeah.
And it was the perfect start for me to just relax and to leave the work behind.
Yeah, especially you have mentioned the Ayurvedic treatment was like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded like you really needed it. Something which is like flushing your body and mind and just helps you de-stress and help your body to detox.
Yeah, and especially after COVID.
Yeah.
I was sick really often.
Yeah.
And then I think then also with the stress at work, I was so tired.
Yeah.
So it was just perfect to just get over everything.
Yeah, get away. And really interesting. It sounds like something I would want to try out for sure. And also you mentioned you kind of try to get your digestion system back with the right bacteria and things like that. So sometimes I wish I would go to just a retreat where I eat really healthy. I'm doing meditation or yoga or something. And
they did it.
Yeah.
Every day we had yoga lesson.
Oh, it sounds really like something I want to do.
Yeah, they had really good food.
Yeah.
And massages and everything.
Wow.
I mean, they also did like really, unusual things. I think it's not unusual for Ayurvedic.
Yeah, but for someone who hasn't experienced it before. Yeah.
So I had to drink stuff to puke that all the things get out of my body.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that before. And then somehow I had to do it.
Yeah, otherwise you might have changed your mind.
Yeah, maybe.
But you said you felt really good afterwards.
Yes, I was full of energy and I slept so well.
Yeah.
So sometimes I have some problems with sleeping.
Yeah.
But since the treatment, it was actually gone, all the sleeping problems.
Wow, it really sounds like something I need. I'm really happy it helped and that you feel so good. Especially what a great start in traveling around with like energetic, feeling healthy and just really good.
Yeah.
So, and what was your next destination?
Well, I met a friend in India that I met in the US before.
Yeah.
So he was my co-worker and he showed me around with his family and showed me everything. Yeah. And I think it was a good way to see things in India and to experience the culture and so I did India for 3 weeks and then I went to Malaysia.
Yay.
And my plan was to go to Australia. That's why I asked for the sabbatical.
Yeah.
And then I had to book a flight from India or out of India. And I saw that the flights from India to Australia were really expensive.
Yeah.
But I saw when you split the flights, it's less expensive.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of doing 2 or 3 days in Kuala Lumpur and going to Australia. And somehow I ended up being there for almost a month.
Yeah, that's a great thing because you mentioned you didn't have like strict plans on when you need to be where and you didn't book everything yet, right? So that's amazing because you're so free and you can really just go with the flow and go where you feel like going and just do what you feel like is the right thing at that time.
And it's so weird because it's actually not how I am.
Yeah.
I love to have everything planned. I'm a really structured person.
Yeah.
And when I do vacation, I actually plan everything or a lot of things in advance.
Yeah.
And I read a lot of things. And now when I came to a city or a place, at some moments I didn't even know what to see there.
Yeah. So would you say that you just kind of try to let go of all this organizing and controlling the situation?
Yes.
And just like try to be free and
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it a little bit scary, or would you say in that moment you didn't even notice because it was just feeling so right?
I remember there were, I think, 2 situations where I felt a little bit bad because I didn't know where to go the next day.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a place where I could stay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, now I'm traveling for almost 6 months or maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a good feeling.
So would you think you learned a lot on the way, like about yourself as well?
Yes. Yeah, that I can trust in myself.
Yeah.
And that I can also do a lot by myself.
Yeah.
And also that it's not a bad thing to ask for help.
Yeah.
If I need help. I mean, at home I have my friends, I have my family. I know who to ask.
Yeah.
And here, because I didn't know anybody, I had to ask just random people.
Yeah. And was your experience that the response was always positive?
Yes. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm just thinking if there was one situation, but I think it was really positive.
Yeah. So generally people are willing to help out and
Yeah.
are not like, oh, I see a tourist and I might tell her where to go and it's completely the wrong way.
Yeah.
I know sometimes there are people who are like, oh, she looks lost. Maybe I tell her she needs to go left even though it's right.
Yeah, and I remember when I was in the US,
Yeah.
I worked there for 1 year and I had a car and it broke down really often.
Oh, no.
And I had to go to the mechanic, and really often they just saw, oh, there's a tourist, or she has an accent.
Yeah.
So I just double the price.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Or
so
I tell
mean.
her, you have to do this and this and this.
Yeah.
So it's not just $50, it's $300.
Yeah. So
And-
maybe you just had like one little thing on your cooling solution or whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your wheels need fixing and your brakes are not working.
Yeah. And maybe that was just one person there.
Yeah.
But here I also had to fix the wheel of the car. But everybody was really nice. And then actually they gave me the price that everybody has to pay.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
So after Malaysia, you finally made it to Australia.
Yes.
So how was that? Since you mentioned that was your main goal.
Yeah, I arrived in Brisbane
Yeah.
and it was raining
Yeah.
a lot. And I got a message on my phone that there will be floodings.
Oh,
and
no.
then I realized that almost everything is booked out because a lot of hostels didn't survive COVID.
Oh, God.
And everybody was traveling somehow.
Yeah.
So the first 1 or 2 weeks were not that easy because then I really had to plan the next weeks.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a car there, I was traveling by bus, and sometimes the bus was also booked out.
Oh, God. Running
But,
out of luck.
Yeah, but I met really nice people, and then my uncle, his family lives in Australia on the Sunshine Coast. And then I was lucky because I could stay with his brother and his wife.
Yeah.
So they helped me a lot the first week, and I didn't have to sleep with 16 other people in a room.
Yeah, that can be quite overwhelming when you come for the first time.
Yeah.
And living in a hostel with like shared dormitories.
And then on the East Coast, I know it was my dream to see the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah.
But on the East Coast, there were mostly people that were much younger than me.
Yeah.
They were like 18 or 19 and just finished school.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm now 32. And
Yeah.
I think it's older than most people that go on a journey around the world and still live in hostels.
Yeah.
So sometimes it was not that easy, and it was hard for me because I'm also a shy person, and I really had to learn to talk to people.
Yeah.
And then they were so much younger, and sometimes, of course, it didn't fit because they had different interests than I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you end up seeing the Great Barrier Reef?
Yes. Yes, and I also met nice people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And did you kind of tick it from your bucket list?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what else was on your bucket list which you can, or you did tick off with that trip?
The Outback.
Yeah.
So from Cairns, I flew into Darwin.
Yeah.
And I went to see the Outback and the Uluru, and that was amazing. And it was so much different than the East Coast.
Yeah.
It was a totally different world.
Yeah.
And I really loved it there because the people were so different. And I mean, also the Aussies on the East Coast, they were really nice, but it was so different in the Outback.
Yeah.
Crazy, but lovely, lovely crazy. And then you really had to, when I went on a trip, I really had to take care to take a lot of water and to look out for, I don't know, animals.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it was different kind of traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so interesting to hear a lot of history.
Yeah.
And to learn about the Aboriginal culture.
Yeah. I would also say we don't really touch history of other countries as much at school, right? Yeah, we don't learn a lot about other people or other cultures except close by or like world wars or something like that. And we do learn a lot about our own culture, which I think is really important, especially with the history we have as a country. It's very important that we learn a lot about it so that we don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
But it would be so interesting to actually learn more about the different cultures and about the native cultures and like the natives in different countries.
Yeah.
So that would be really nice to actually have a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and I actually was surprised to, I mean, as you said, it's really important to hear about our history in World War II or World War One and what happened. But then I was surprised that a lot of things also happened in Australia or Singapore at World War II.
Yeah.
And I have never heard about that.
Yeah,
I mean, we heard about maybe Pearl Harbor and what happened there.
Yeah.
But then that a lot of things happened in Darwin or in Broome or in Singapore. I have never heard about that before.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually also not really knowledgeable about the history of a lot of countries. And when I then talk to all the new people I meet, then it's so interesting what their history is of the country. And even certain countries in Europe, like Iran, I did not know about, which is kind of sad, but I do understand at school we can't really learn everything. So it's on us then to go out and kind of learn the things we want to learn. But yeah, sometimes it would be nice to be a little bit more international rather than sticking to our own history.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good. That's another thing I learned on the travel.
Yeah. When you think back, because we both grew up in a really small town in Germany, and I feel sometimes the mindset from people in small towns is a little bit different.
Yes.
How do you feel now going out into the world and growing up in a small town? Do you feel like there is a big difference? Is it also your feeling, or is it, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's so in my hometown there I think most of the people I know or I grew up with, a lot of people are still living there and they never went somewhere abroad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine if they don't want to go somewhere, but they are not that open-minded.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of people, when I first went abroad, they didn't understand why I go.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, you could also stay here, you can just work here, you can do your experience. And but I think now it's the fourth time that I'm away for a longer time. And now they, I think, kind of understand and they are a little bit more open.
Yeah. And what do you think that with you going abroad and opening your own mind and broaden your horizon, that your family then started to do the same?
I think some of them will never do what I did.
Yeah.
Or will also not go that far.
Yeah.
But I think because they see that I have good experience now and that people from other cultures are not that bad and it's not that dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we have to watch out, but also at home I live now in Berlin.
Yeah.
You also need to watch out there.
Yeah, it can be dangerous in a lot of places. Yeah.
So I think they now see it's not that dangerous.
Yeah, that's good.
And there's a lot to see. And I think even if they don't like to travel, they love all the pictures and the videos that I'm sending.
So maybe they can feel a little bit of, oh, maybe I should go somewhere. Maybe I should visit that country. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm surrounded by a lot of people, even at home, who love traveling. And I think they also have kind of the same mindset. But I remember my grandma also was like, why do you need to go so far away? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I want to broaden my horizon and I want to learn more. And she was also like, oh, you can do that here. And I was just like, nah, that's just not the same. Yeah, it's just not very different. Yeah. Do you think you will be able to go back to your old life, in brackets, just like that? Or would you consider moving countries one day?
Wow. I think for now, I'm at the point that I really like to go home. So I miss my work. I really love work somehow. Also I miss my friends, my family. So and I miss Berlin. I never thought that I will ever miss Berlin. So for now I think I'm happy to go back. Yeah. I'm not sure what changed. I think a lot of things changed. Maybe I changed. Even if I don't feel it yet. Yeah. Or maybe it will be like as I just went for a 3-week vacation. Yeah. Yeah, I would not say no that I would never go somewhere else. Yeah. Maybe one day. Yeah. But I think for now I'm good to go home.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, or I know for myself, I also need a place which I call home and I can go back to. Mm-hmm. I couldn't be like a nomad where I'm just going from one place to the other and just never really settle down. Yeah. I think I also need a place where I can come back to. Mm-hmm. But I might ask you in a couple of months again. Yeah. If you have maybe some like Wanderlust, I think we call it. Like if you can't sit there anymore and you need to go overseas again. So I might check on that, how you feel, because obviously now you have been away for so long. Mm-hmm. So I can totally understand that you're now feeling like, okay, I think it's time to go back. And especially when you love your job and you miss your family. But let me ask you in a few months again, and then we'll see what the answer will be.
Yeah, I think before, when I was a little bit younger, and I worked in the US for 1 year, I think there was a time where I thought maybe I could just stay away for longer and find a job somewhere. Yeah. It was not the right place in the US for me. It was good that I did the year there and I learned a lot. Yeah. But there I was kind of thinking to go somewhere.
Yeah, so you were kind of ready in that moment. Yeah. But it was not really the right time.
Yeah, and then I had to go back home. Yeah. And so let's see what's happened.
Yeah, I'm really curious, especially now. You never know, maybe I will see you back here one day.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe in Australia.
Yeah, it sounds like you really enjoyed it there. So.
Yeah, I really enjoyed New Zealand too, because of the landscape and people are even nicer here. It will be hard for me to go back to Berlin where everybody's kind of in a really bad mood.
Everyone is stressed and hectic and everyone needs to go to work and
and everybody's complaining about everything. And here everybody's just nice and welcoming. Yeah, but Australia had something exciting.
Yeah, I actually really need to make my way to Australia. because it's right around the corner, and I still haven't made it to Aussie yet.
Yeah.
So I hope that I will also have the same great experience. But I think for me it's a little different living in New Zealand now and then just going on a little vacation. So I will probably not have like the full-on 4 weeks backpacking tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited. I know it's a beautiful country, so I can't wait to see it. I'm just always a little scared about snakes and spiders.
Yeah, I just met one snake
Yeah.
and one spider.
Which is funny because a lot of people say you barely see any. And then you say I just saw one each. But somehow in my brain, I'm always just prepared to know when I go to Australia that there might be a trip and I will see all the snakes and they will come towards me. And yeah, even though I know that's not really how it works, but in my brain, I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah, what would you think was the biggest lesson you have learned from the whole trip so far?
Maybe that you cannot plan everything in advance and that it's okay just to let the things how they are.
Yeah.
And even if something happens,
Yeah.
it's not a big thing mostly.
Yeah.
And there will be a solution for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest lesson.
Well, it's a big enough lesson for sure. I can't remember how I felt. And usually I was afraid to death to do things by myself. But then coming to New Zealand, I was booking my hostel just really late. And I wasn't afraid somehow. I don't know why. And I just thought everything will happen. Everything will fall into its place and it will be just great.
Yes.
And that's how it worked out. And yeah, it's a great feeling. And it's nice to share that and to know that you had the same experience. And
yeah, and I'm really curious how it will be at home.
yeah. Yep.
How I will, yeah, if I will be easygoing as here.
Or
if it will
back to be
change.
stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another really interesting part, to see if the things you might have told yourself on the journey, I want to be more relaxed, I want to be more confident in what happens and that I don't need to be afraid and I want to trust in myself more, then if you can actually apply it also back home when you're back into your routine work and the normal life you had before.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, and it would be probably really interesting to have you on the podcast once more after a few months.
Oh yeah, maybe
see,
we can do that.
Maybe a short version to see where you are at.
Yeah.
Or maybe you are already like, I need to get out. Cool. At the end of the podcast, I always have my quick 3 questions, which means they are just answered by one word or one sentence.
Okay.
So, first question, which country would you imagine to move to if you would have to choose one?
I think Australia.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, especially after our conversation we had.
Yeah.
Great. Question number 2. What is your next destination?
It's California.
California.
Yeah, next week.
Great. And after that?
I'm going back home.
Yeah, so really the last destination is California.
So I have 1 more week left in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then I will meet a friend in California.
Yeah.
So she will come from Berlin to California. We will do a round trip and
wow.
Then I have to go back.
I hope you will have a really magic time over there as well. And the last question, what has been the biggest surprise for you while you were traveling around? Like something unexpected where you were not thinking you would feel that way or see these things, or something surprising.
Maybe I cannot do it in one sentence.
That's okay.
Yeah. I was really afraid of living in hostels.
Yeah.
I did that before in the 20s and so, but the last years I didn't really go into hostels anymore.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, when I go on that long vacation and then I don't have my space anymore.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised that it went out that well.
Yeah.
And that I actually just met nice people.
Yeah.
So there were no bad surprises mostly.
Yeah, so that was your biggest unexpected moment, that everything went so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's good. At least it was a positive surprise.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I'm so lucky that we were able to manage to have that record as well, and that we have the other side of someone who is still on the travel mindset, haven't settled down yet in a different country, but is kind of in the in-between.
Yeah, maybe not.
So thank you so much for your time and for coming to New Zealand.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I hope everyone enjoyed it, and thank you for listening again, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.